Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley.
I'm John.
All right, Thor Ragnarok, the long-awaited buddy team-up between the God of Thunder and Bruce Banner is almost upon us, and with 2 weeks left to go before its release, reviews for Marvel's new superhero flick are dropping way early, which is a pretty good indication of their confidence.
Yeah, when they don't let you see something, it means they don't know if it's good. So that means after months of ridiculous and awesome trailers...
I like the trailers, yeah.
Yeah, they've been good. We can finally answer the question of, is it a good?
Actually, you know what? Screw those mutter takes. What we really need to know is if it's the best comic book movie ever, in all caps with, like, flashing letters, because maybe... Honestly, thanks to all the early reviews that we're getting, Thor Ragnarok is sitting very pretty at a ridiculous 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, at least as of right now, with 34 reviews and counting.
Yep. If you want to use a slightly different scale than Rotten Tomatoes.
You know, it's always good to like get a range.
Metacritic's algorithm puts Thor Ragnarok at a 77.
That is a range.
Yeah, which would be somewhere north of 3 out of 4 stars, which, considering how most movies are graded, puts it in pretty enjoyable territory.
Although lower than 100% for
yes.
sure. Now, since there are more reviews coming in all the time, it's probably gonna level out somewhere lower than 100 on Rotten Tomatoes long term, but considering how many are in and how high the score still is, it'll probably still be as high as probably mid-90s when all is said and done.
As for how that compares to previous Thor outings, it's easily the best because, come on, its competition was The Dark World.
You know what? I didn't mind The Dark World.
Yeah, everyone just tries to forget it happened. I liked it, but just like, we don't remember that one.
I don't know. I went into both Thor movies expecting not to care all that much, and I came out of both of them pleasantly surprised.
Dark World ended up at a 66, which is the lowest scoring MCU entry of all.
Even lower than Iron Man 3. Yes.
Oh yeah, that happened. I forgot. Oh man, that's rough. And still higher than every other DCEU film not called Wonder Woman. The original Thor landed at a 77.
All right, well, prior to Thor Ragnarok, the freshest MCU movies are actually Iron Man, the original, at 94.
Good one.
Spider-Man Homecoming and the Avengers at 92 each, and Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America Civil War at 91 each. And if you want to get super technical about it, include the TV verse, believe it or not, Luke Cage was actually the previous record holder at 96%, which I would probably not have placed it at the highest tier, but it was still fine.
It's fine. It's not 96 fine, though.
I would agree.
So, what exactly is it that makes Thor Ragnarok so enjoyable, other than Taika Waititi and his wonderful onesies he wears? The general consensus from the critics is that the movie is easily Marvel's funniest movie, might be one of its most enjoyable entries, finally nails what a Thor movie should have been all along, and that its cast soars, particularly Chris Hemsworth and the wonderful Cate Blanchett.
Yeah, I mean, when does she not soar? However, many of the reviews did ding the movie for a subpar story and for having that formulaic Marvel structure, and some people didn't enjoy the tone quite so much.
We'll get to that later, but first let's talk about what the critics loved, because there are a whole lot of praises being sung for the film. Mostly just how outlandish and bold it is. Did you see Jeff Goldblum's makeup?
I mean, if you've seen the trailers, you kind of know what you're getting into, right?
Yeah, BBC wrote in its review that Thor Ragnarok is undoubtedly the best of the character's 3 films. It's more confident than the others, more kaleidoscopically colorful, and more eye-catching in its design. It has more coherent fight sequences and more impressive digital effects than its predecessors did, and while it takes its hero's story to surprising new places, it has an endearing reverence for his comic book roots.
Now, if you didn't catch the trailers, or if you couldn't tell from them, Thor Ragnarok is going very colorful, very campy. It's going for a lot of humor. Critics love just how much it leaned into the characters and allowed them to play off one another to the point where some called it the closest thing Marvel's done to a comedy yet, because while the Marvel formula has a lot of comedic elements in just about every movie, they're generally action movies with comedy. This is going closest yet to actual comedy. It's also incredibly self-aware, poking fun at itself at almost every turn.
The general consensus is that Chris Hemsworth in particular excels with the film's new tone. The Hollywood Reporter wrote that Ragnarok gives Chris Hemsworth a chance to find the comic groove beneath the title character's beefcake godliness. He does it expertly, and the self-mocking humor is all the more welcome given Thor's essential blandness.
Entertainment Weekly agreed, writing the newest and unquestionably funniest big-screen Marvel adventure, Thor Ragnarok seems hellbent on finally unleashing Hemsworth's real secret weapon, his humor. With the exception of Deadpool and the Guardians of the Galaxy films, Ragnarok may be the only Marvel hero movie that feels like it's first and foremost a comedy.
And of course, the other big selling point of the films is its use of the other Avenger, the Hulk. Considering the character's limited appearances so far, I shouldn't be surprised that Ragnarok may feature some of his best moments yet.
Variety said Ragnarok finds a creative way to pit these two Avengers against one another. Later, once Hulk has mellowed into human form, they bicker over who's the strongest, all of which is far more entertaining than watching them smash and hammer some generic CG adversary. And also, they put that whole conversation, it seems like, in the trailer, so you can already see it.
Yep. Besides the two Avengers in the film's humor, the thing that really sets it apart is just how campy it is. And the movie definitely hits that tone and that note over and over, which of course leads to some differing opinions. Some loved that campy tone, others really hated it.
Birth Movie's Death, we're on the love it side, writing, the masterstroke of Thor Ragnarok is realizing that Thor has always been the sore thumb that sticks out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. From the opening scene featuring Thor dangling upside down in a net and talking to himself, it's clear the tone of this adventure will be drastically different. It's like a Monty Python movie with way more capes.
The movie's embrace of its own campiness comes out in particular with Cate Blanchett's performance as Hela, goddess of death, who vamps and struts with the best of them. Forbes calls her a blast and a half in the role.
Others, though, weren't quite as enamored with Blanchett's performance.
They should feel bad for their opinions.
I just report the news.
I know.
Entertainment Weekly complained, surely there have to be other ways to play female evil than just threat, threat, punchline, threat, threat, punchline, especially when the threats are dusty groaners like, want to see what power really looks like? But Blanchett is such a talented actress, all isn't lost even if she vanishes for large chunks of the film.
Yeah, the embrace of campiness might prove to be a turnoff to some fans out there, just as it was definitely a turnoff to some reviewers who felt that it didn't take itself quite seriously enough. USA Today wrote, "It's zany to a fault, though. The adventure leans hard into the campy Flash Gordon vibe and slapstick humor, so much so that when the third act save the world stuff comes, it doesn't feel completely earned." Now,
it should be noted that the campiness didn't stop the reviewer from enjoying the film. They later went on to say, even tonal issues can't upend the magic this movie taps into, putting Thor and Hulk together as new best buddies, whether they're throwing down in an arena or having a romantic heart-to-heart.
The BBC said of the campiness, "It's also bubbly and inconsequential that it can feel as if you're watching a hugely expensive sitcom episode. For much of the running time, the heroes are bantering and squabbling on the Grand Master's glittery planet, and they seem to be light years away, emotionally as well as geographically, from anything that's happening on Asgard, let alone on Earth. In theory, the fate of the universe is at stake. In practice, you'll care more about Thor's new haircut than Hela's reign of terror."
Yeah, that haircut though.
Looks good.
Which leads to another complaint that critics had, which is Ragnarok's story. Because, well, it's sort of all over the place, and it's pretty much like every other Marvel film we've seen before in that way. Variety said the plot was confusing and takes place on a parallel world you care nothing about.
And EW called the story narcoleptic, saying, "It's the sort of rote, paint-by-number slog, occasionally broken up by numbing pro forma smashy smackdowns that make so many Marvel movies feel like Xeroxes of other Marvel movies. There's a lot more to the bloated story, but honestly, none of it is very interesting. In fact, it's endless. You don't care what's happening or what's going to happen next. We're just led from place to place for a hash of foggy reasons that no one will ever remember 10 minutes after leaving the theater."
Do you think they like that?
Yeah, tell us your real opinion, bro.
Well, that's his job as a reviewer.
There you go.
That being said, many felt that this is the price of admission when you go to Marvel movies. It's sort of what they're known for, and that the film's humor and character interactions do help it rise above those problems.
So, in summary, Thor Ragnarok is an entertaining buddy comedy where the film's main characters just happen to be as powerful as gods. If you love the MCU, you'll probably find this to be one of the more enjoyable entries yet.
And if you like the trailers, well, that's probably what you're gonna get, sounds like.
Yeah, just beware that you probably shouldn't go in expecting something Shakespearean in terms of its emotional weight.
All right, so that about does it for our review roundup of Thor Ragnarok. What do you think about all the early reviews? Are you planning on seeing the movie? Are you excited? Do you wish it took itself a little bit more seriously? Let us know in the comments.
For future news about all this fall's biggest releases, remember to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the Know.
Access denied.
God of Thunder.
Denied.
Prince of Asgard.
Denied.
Strongest Avenger.
Let me try.
Banner.
Welcome, Strongest Avenger.
What?